welcome viewers. I am Pia and you're watching Primetime Asia, and here are the headlines. China has condemned Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takeichi's comments and actions regarding Taiwan at the APEC meetings, calling them a serious violation of the One China principle. China has stated that it will suspend retaliatory tariffs of up to 15% on certain US agricultural imports starting the 10th of November, following last week's meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. However, US soybeans will continue to face a 13% tariff and 10% duties tied to Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, which remain in place. The death toll from Typhoon Kalmegi has risen to at least 100 in the Philippines, with the Cebu province the worst hit. Floods have been reported and wind speeds of up to 80 miles per hour have been recorded. Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara is going to meet with US President Donald Trump on Monday. This is according to the White House. This will be the first time in decades that a Syrian head of state will be at the White House. An Australian woman sentenced to life for poisoning 3 relatives with toxic mushrooms has filed an appeal to overturn her conviction. Erin Pattinson, who is 51 years, received one of the longest prison terms for a woman in Australia, with a 33-year non-parole period. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has welcomed the EU Enlargement Committee's annual report, calling it Ukraine's best in 3 years. He's highlighted military successes, continued EU membership progress, and EU financial support exceeding 1.8 billion euros. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has confirmed that the US military has killed 2 suspected drug smugglers in the Eastern Pacific. This marks the 16th strike since September, raising the overall death toll to at least 67 in the Caribbean and Pacific operations. Well, viewers, those are the headlines, and our top focus. China has now strongly condemned comments and actions by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takeichi regarding Taiwan, describing them as a serious violation of the One China principle and the spirit of the 4 political documents between the 2 countries. Listen in.
日方有关行径严重违背一个中国原则和中日4个政治文件精神和国际关系基本准则，向台独势力发出严重错误信号，我们对此坚决反对。日方在台湾问题上负有历史罪责，尤应深刻反省历史，恪守一个中国原则和中日4个政治文件的精神，慎之又慎处理涉台问题。正告民进党当局，任何以外谋独、企图将台湾从中国分裂出去的图谋，都是痴心妄想，只会失败的更加彻底。
These remarks have come after Takeichi made a post on social media sharing photos and comments about her meetings and exchanges with personnel from Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party during the APEC Leaders Week. In response, a spokeswoman for China's State Council, Zhang Han, has now stated that Japan's actions violate basic norms in international relations and send a gravely wrong signal to Taiwan's and secessionist forces. She's added that Japan should uphold the One China principle and handle the Taiwan question very carefully. With us on the broadcast is Collins Chong-Hugh Keat, Foreign Affairs and Security and Strategy Analyst, joining us from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewSX World. Interesting development coming in as far as the China-Japan equation is concerned. We've recently seen a meeting between Sanae Takeichi and Xi Jinping as well. She is known to be a China hawk within the political circles in Japan, and of course her foreign policy is likely to be guided by that principle as well. What do you make at the outset of the Chinese reaction to what she stated? Because her position has been very clear so far.
Well, we have seen how Beijing has been trying to court Takaichi, although it's a futile effort. We have seen how Washington has been at the forefront in strengthening ties with this new government, and of course, Trump has been fond of her because of similar sentiments and views. And of course, Takaichi is a China hawk, and Beijing's attempts to set the record straight, to have this and to set a very positive early phase of ties with administration has drawn futile efforts, and we have seen also how this issue is being blown out of proportion. It is an APEC meeting, it is an economic platform, and of course it is still within Japan's position in not violating any existing norms with China in regards to the One China policy, and it's part of the routine diplomatic engagement with at the multilateral platform in APEC. So we see that Takaichi is steering Japan towards the very conservative foreign policy frontline, and this has presented a new challenge for Beijing under President Xi now. Indeed. Now that we have seen this this forefront of extended bulwark of Trump's new engagement with the region, and Takaichi's stance has even amplified Washington's bargaining cards and chips, right from the heels of Trump's presence in Southeast Asia and East Asia. So we have seen now, Beijing is increasingly cornered, and to the advantage of, this new front of democratic nations who have been wary of Beijing's intentions and actions in these disputed regions. And I think it sends a very positive signal, not only to East Asia, but also to Southeast Asia.
Indeed, I'll come to Donald Trump just shortly, but before that, I'd of course like to address the equation and what happened in the meeting between Sanai Takaichi and Xi Jinping. After this meeting, she'd come out and stated that their exchange was very candid. She'd also stated that she had raised serious concerns over what's happening in the South China Sea. And she's also highlighted that it's important for both Japan and China to engage in direct and candid dialogue, thus making it very clear that she is not going to mince her words when it comes to her position on China. Who do you think is setting the tone in this particular equation? Because, of course, this is a very assertive statement to give out to the media after her meeting. Do you think the recent statement we've just seen and heard from the Chinese side is an attempt by China to now control the narrative as far as the bilateral equation is concerned?
Well, of course, China has been trying to control the narrative now, but we have seen how Takaichi has been smart and brilliant to reassert the era of increased Japanese presence in this region, and the era of where this region is being used by Beijing as a backyard, as a convenient backyard to expand its soft power and hard power influence is now over, with Trump's renewed presence and Trump's renewed commitment to the region. And we have seen this, also Tokyo before this has been under this three-pronged threat from Beijing, from Pyongyang, from Moscow now. So there's practically no choice and no other options for Takaichi unless to further deepen Tokyo's commitment and ironclad defense commitment with Washington to get the attention and trust and the buy-in from Trump. That's what she has been doing now in the early phases of her term. And of course also to reinforce, the position of Japan in East Asia, away also beyond the economic and of course defense partnership with Washington now that, this greater influence capacity in Southeast Asia with South Korea now. Of course, also we have seen all these symbolic and powerful messages to Beijing that although Tokyo is seeking positive, of course, mutually beneficial and respectful ties between Tokyo and Beijing, at the end of the day, the core matter that will be of great importance to Tokyo will be to defend Tokyo's sovereign rights and interests, not only in the disputed regions with China now, regards to Senkaku Islands and all that, but also increasingly to protect the maritime security and supply chain security in extended fronts in Southeast Asia, whether it's Strait of Malacca or whether it's South China Sea. These are important maritime routes for Japan, and China can weaponize that and to blockade Japan in times of conflict. So Japan is now trying to bring this, the security of Japan now hinges not only in the near waters of Japan, but also increasingly in the region of Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean also. So that's why we see the increased, overtures to this region, of course, also to strengthen Quad and all that. So this is a very positive move by Takaichi.
Indeed, and coming to Donald Trump, we'd seen her meeting with Trump. They were aboard one of the US warships in Japan as well, where Trump had stated that the United States is providing missiles to Japan. Japan has been modifying its destroyers and its naval fleet to accommodate these US missiles, but it seems that Trump is looking at fast-tracking this process as well. And we already know that US does have considerable presence in Japan as well as in South Korea. What is the larger game plan of the United States in the Indo-Pacific to counter China?
Well, we've seen how Trump's plan is to reassure allies, to send a very positive signaling to the region, that to also to correct this misperception of Trump, with his America First policies, will result in a region of will result in this East Asian or Indo-Pacific region being at the negative end of this decreased U.S. presence in terms of hard power and soft power presence. But we have seen how Trump's move is also to disassociate from the futile policies by Biden with regards to the Squad or even the Quad, right? So we've seen how Trump is trying to reassure this, that also at the same time to compel allies and non-allies alike to increase also their obligations in terms of increasing their budget defense and shared responsibility to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific. And it has to be done on a mutual and respectful basis. And and the era where this region has been taking Washington as a piggyback in terms of defense spending and support is now over. But at the same time, Trump is also trying to set a very positive tone that the U.S. will still be here to protect them, but also maintaining the leverage on Washington in terms of strategic ambiguity with regards to Taiwan, with regards to other non-allies. And this is a very strategic move, but also a very reassuring move to the region who has been at the negative end of Beijing's increased bellicosity in the region. So I would say that Trump's move also is to safeguard Washington's leverage, but at the same time trying to send a very positive tone to allies, but also ultimately to send a powerful message to Beijing that this region is not being abandoned under Trump's watch, and never ever will Taiwan be used as a pretext or as a factor for Beijing to use it as a bargaining chip with Washington. So as we have seen how they have also recently stated that Beijing will not invade Taiwan under Trump's watch. That's what we have seen also when Trump stated that under his watch in the first term, Putin is not moving into Ukraine. So I would see that for that to maintain for now. And I don't see any way for President Xi to provoke or to use Taiwan as pretext to set tones that will be beneficial to Beijing in the
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some further developments. We're now learning that China has announced that it will suspend some tariffs on goods that it imports from the United States, including certain agricultural products. The tariffs, which had been imposed in retaliation to U.S. measures, will be scrapped starting the 10th of November. However, U.S. soybeans will remain subjected to a 13% tariff, making them still costly for China to purchase in large quantities, especially given the cheaper alternatives from Brazil. Now, this development follows last week's meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in South Korea. Meanwhile, the White House expects China to purchase at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans in the final months of 2025. These figures have yet to be confirmed by Beijing. In addition to the suspension of some tariffs, China has also decided to remove or suspend non-tariff retaliatory measures, including export controls against U.S. companies. Still with us on the broadcast is Collins Chong-Yu Keat. Interesting development. We've, of course, been seeing these tensions on the economic front simmering for quite a while between the United States under Trump and China. What do you make of this? Is this a step towards both countries recognizing that they play a very crucial role as the world's two largest economies in maintaining the stability of global supply chains?
Well, Beijing is using this, this move to hold back on the move on the soybean purchase as a strategic leverage for Beijing. This partial tariff rollback is less about trade reconciliation, but more about strategic signaling, a message to global markets that Beijing is seeking stability and without surrendering its leverage and strategic grounds. Also as a message to Washington, and this is the platform by Beijing to have this kind of incremental détente moves, small symbolic gestures aimed at rebuilding trust step by step and seeing how the other party respond to that, while also keeping at the same time the strategic leverage that Beijing will have. So we know that, of course, China is the biggest importer for soybeans, but it has increased dependence on its fallback options on different markets, from Brazil and all that. So this is being used also as a greater move, by Beijing to have this kind of increased bargaining costs with Washington. But as I've stated earlier, that Washington has the ultimate card here. Of course, China is dependent on the U.S. market, and Trump's move to bring back wealth and firms and jobs to the U.S. will now stabilize the U.S. market and will increase U.S. wealth, which will in turn increase demand and purchasing power of the U.S. And China is on reliance on that, and with the ever continuing domestic economic downturn of China in terms of property crisis, in terms of demographic crisis. So all these have hampered the options available to President Xi, who is also now facing an increasing time trap. So we have seen in all indications, indicators, President Xi will have the upper hand. President Trump will have the upper hand for the U.S.-China economic graph.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time and sharing your perspective with us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, viewers, we are shifting focus to more developments coming in. We're now learning that as Delhi struggles with a poor air quality index, China has offered help in combating severe air pollution. Chinese embassy's spokesperson Yu Jing has stated that China once struggled with smog too and is ready to share its journey towards clearer skies. China has been taking aggressive measures to reduce pollution since 2013, including shifting industries, restricting vehicular emissions, and expanding clean energy and its green footprint too. The country has spent about $100 billion on air cleaning measures, leading to a significant improvement in air quality over the years. Meanwhile, New Delhi's AQI remains in the poor category, with the number recorded at 228. Areas such as Anand Vihar and Lodi Road have reported AQI scores of 279 and 213, while air quality has improved slightly after cloud seeding trials were conducted. Of course, the deteriorating air quality is a crisis for the residents of India's national capital. Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Vibhuti Rai, environmentalist from Lucknow. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. What we are seeing in New Delhi, we've been speaking about it year after year after year. The situation has not improved whatsoever. There are solutions that have been offered. There are people, analysts, who point out that it's a mixture of both vehicular emissions as well as the stubble burning that takes place in North Indian states as well. What can India then learn from China's journey in order to reduce air pollution? Because a decade or so back, cities like Beijing and Shanghai were in the same condition.
Oh yeah, in 2013, China, especially Beijing and Shanghai, had shown one of the poorest in all records as far as the quality of air was concerned. There was a lot of smog for months together. And almost similar situation is now coming to Delhi, especially in this transitional weather, when the onset of winters are going to be. I think what China took measures at that point of time was multi-tasking, like reducing the vehicular pollution by having a limited number of vehicles on the road. That was done with the help of, I think they took out lotteries who can, for numbers that were allowed on the roads. Secondly, they also reduced the polluting industries, especially coal-based industries. They also did a lot of air seeding, especially for local areas where the seeding of cloud was done. In addition, they have installed in different areas large-scale filters on the main roads and intersections. So they took number of measures, and then it was possible in a couple of years' time that the pollution reduced. Now, as far as New Delhi is concerned, it's basically NCR, the National Capital Region of India, where we have all the, let's say, polluting surroundings, especially from Haryana area, Uttar Pradesh, the industrial townships of Delhi itself. So, as I understand, Delhi needs support and planning. For planning, China has offered the technical know-how in what way they can reduce, taking the example from Beijing of 2013. I think government has to take some serious measures, especially the vehicles which are sold every year. They are run in millions, especially in the NCR area. Now people are buying new vehicles, but are also keeping the old vehicles. One major change this time is that a lot of e-vehicles have come on the roads, but I think government has to still improve the number of e-vehicles to reduce the pollution. Vehicular pollution is the most dangerous pollution that is taking place. I don't know exactly the number, but the number of vehicles in Delhi runs in millions. Although from this year, from November, Delhi government has put all the vehicles which are Bharat 4 or less than that not to be applied on the roads, and only Bharat 6 vehicles they are now allowed. But I think it will take time before the things change. Now the season for this smoke infested fields which emerge out when a lot of plant remains are burnt out after the cropping season is over, parali kind of things, that is also to be taken care of, that government should give subsidy for these agricultural persons. I think this is one of the ways to reduce the pollution, and then participation of people in general, how they can reduce the polluting areas, that is also to be done.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us as we're shifting focus away from India towards what's happening in the Philippines. We're now learning that the death toll from Typhoon Kalmegi in the central Philippines has risen above 100. This comes as authorities continue to assess the devastation. In Cebu province, 76 people have been confirmed dead, with 35 bodies recovered from flooded areas of Liloan. On Negros Island, at least 12 people have died and another 12 remain missing after heavy rains triggered volcanic mud flows in Canlaon City. Nearly 800,000 people were evacuated ahead of the storm. And we also have learned that Cebu received 183 millimeters of rainfall in 24 hours itself, which is well above the average. This disaster has drawn the attention to alleged ghost flood control projects, with local officials suggesting a possible link to the unusually severe flooding. Meanwhile, weather experts have warned that stronger storms driven by climate change are becoming more frequent. Kalmegi has now moved west over the South China Sea towards Vietnam, which has already experienced deadly flooding this week. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Vibhuti Rai, interesting development coming in from the Philippines. We've seen this entire region facing more than 22 such storms, 22 such typhoons this year itself. How does this point out to the severity of climate change that is taking place?
Oh yeah, this particular Philippine issue is something which the global eyes should be focusing on this area. The entire Pacific region, in which the Philippines Islands are part of it, is under turmoil. We have had several huge earthquakes, tsunami-infested earthquakes, and then in Philippines itself, there was a rupture and there was a huge earthquake a couple of months ago, and then these typhoons. Most of the deaths, as I understand, are because of the drowning. Many of the cities have been flooded with meter-high waters. Most of the devastation has taken place in Cebu Island, where almost the entire town has been drowned and people have escaped. I have just learned that more than 4 lakh people, 400,000 people have been moved to safer areas. However, there was an accident also of this helicopter which was in the rescue operations has fallen down, and all the 6 people on the rescue team has been dead. This is really, really very sad, because Philippines is one area which is surrounded by waters on all the sides. There are huge number of islands as part of it. Now this typhoon, which churns up the water and throws the seawater and that floods these smaller islands, is something a very serious issue. I don't understand how this early warning system has not been put into place in these areas, because early warning system can actually help to make ample preparations for evacuating people from possible flooded area from the direction of the typhoon movement. That can be done a few hours before, because everything can be done on the AI. It can be interpreted which direction the typhoon would be moving. I think this is one of the major issues related with the climate change. We are seeing the havoc of the climate change, especially in these low-lying islands, and there should be global concern how this climate change can be put back into normal climatic situation. Most of the countries have been part to signatory of various kinds of MOUs where action is to be taken to reduce the carbon emission, also that to bring down the rising temperature of the earth. But I think the wars in different parts of the world, that has also added fuel to the fury.
Exacerbated,
because,
yes.
On one side, we are saying that we have to reduce pollution and emissions and all that. On the other side, countries are not concerned with it. I have just a few days ago, number of atomic bomb has been exploded by, I think, USA and China and few other countries.
US has said that it's likely to, in fact, resume testing. There are delivery systems that have been tested up until now, but the US, as you pointed out rightly, has stated that it is looking at resuming it. Meanwhile, of course, as you pointed out, it's important to keep in mind that we all share a collective responsibility. The COP30 is coming up in Brazil next week itself, so we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for that itself. Mr. Vibhuti Rai, I'd like to thank you so much for taking out time and, of course, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. But viewers, some fresh news coming in from Nepal. We're now learning that Nepal's Election Commission has announced that 125 political parties have registered to contest the first parliamentary election since the mass uprising in September that ousted the government. Spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattarai has stated that the commission believes all political parties and citizens are eager to bring new leadership through the election. The registration process is still ongoing, with 10 party applications pending before the election date. has been announced. The Commission has completed all preparations and has confirmed that the election will be held on the 2nd of March 2026 in a peaceful and impartial environment. Listen in to what the spokesperson had to say.
जो राजनीतिक दल दर्ताको काम पनि निरन्तर भइरहेको छ। हाम्रो आयोगमा राजनीतिक दल दर्ताका लागि यो निर्वाचन घोषणा हुनुभन्दा अगाडि 10 वटा दल पेन्डिङमा थिए। अहिले 125 वटा दलले अनुमति पाइसकेका छन्।
More news coming in. Pope Leo XIV, during an audience in St. Peter's Square, has urged the international community not to forget the Burmese people and to provide necessary humanitarian assistance. Last week, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres had called for an immediate end to the violence in Myanmar and had urged the restoration of democracy, the rule of law and human rights. Myanmar has been engulfed in violence since a coup in 2021 which ousted an elected government, with ruling generals facing strong resistance from armed groups. Listen in to what the Pope had to say.
Vi invito ad unirvi alla mia preghiera per quanti sono provati dai conflitti armati in diverse parti del mondo. Penso in particolare al Myanmar ed esorto la comunità internazionale a non dimenticare la popolazione birmana e a fornire la necessaria assistenza umanitaria.
Well, viewers, that's a wrap on Primetime Asia. We'll continue to track all of these developments very closely. Meanwhile, we're slipping into a quick short break.